beginning in verses 1 through 4. He looked up and saw rich people putting their gifts into the treasury. He also saw a poor widow put in 2 small copper coins. He said, "Truly I tell you, this poor widow has put in more than all of them, for all of them have contributed out of their abundance. But she, out of her poverty, has put in all she had to live on." This is the word of God. You may be seated. So this morning on our Celebration Sunday, and I do hope that you've had a chance, if you haven't yet, it's going on till 1 o'clock after the service. Go next door, get some food, look around the whole building, see what it is that we have been doing the last couple of years. But we're looking this morning at the story of the widow giving her 2 copper coins into the treasury. Now, the scriptures weren't divided into chapters until, I don't know, anybody know when it was? 14th, 15th, 16th century, somewhere in there. And sometimes when they divided those scriptures, they did a really bad job of deciding where the break should be. And this is one of those stories where they did a really bad job. So if you go back to the end of chapter 20, beginning in verse 45, you read this. "In the hearing of all the people, he said to the disciples," he being Jesus, "Beware of the scribes who like to walk around in long robes and love to be greeted with respect in the marketplaces and to have the best seats in the synagogues and places of honor at banquets. They devour widows' houses and for the sake of appearance say long prayers. They will receive the greater condemnation." And then Jesus goes on to tell the story about the widow who put in her 2 copper coins. What she gave were 2 lepta. They are small copper coins, and they were the smallest coins in use at the time. It would have taken 128 lepta to equal 1 denarius, and a denarius was equal to a day's wage. So she's talking about the scribes, these guys who go around with their long robes and want to be greeted with respect, and they want the best seats. They want to be honored, recognized for what they've done. But Jesus says they devour widows' houses. You know, honestly, though, we all have this tendency to want recognition for what we've done and for what we give. Have you noticed that? We naturally want to do that. So when I was in college, I went to the University of Texas and played in Longhorn Band. And when I was there at all those football games, it was Memorial Stadium. And it was Memorial Stadium for years. I went back many years later and went to a football game, and I was like, where am I? Because it is now the Darrell K. Royal Texas Memorial Stadium at Joe Jamal Field with the Red McCombs Red Zone Sports Medicine and Strength Training Project in the north end zone. What? Really? We do. We have this tendency to want recognition for what we've done and for what we've given. And then here comes this widow who is nameless, who gives her 2 last tiny copper coins, and who in ancient Israel was not even required to give because of her poverty. Yet she gave, and she gave because it was important to her. It was a matter of her heart. It was how she lived her life. And you know, we have that same option available to us. How are we going to face this world? What is going to be our matter of heart? How will we live our lives? We can do it in a closed fashion, or we can do it in an open fashion. And I'm talking heart, mind, hands, all of our life. We have this option to live it closed or to live it open. But it is from a spiritual discipline that we need to decide that. Because I think our natural inclination is to live it closed. You know, this week I have started a prayer book. It's called Praying the Hours, and I'm doing it for Lent. And each week you have a prayer that repeats through all of the different prayers of the week. And this is the one prayer that repeated this week. Most loving Father, whose will it is for us to give thanks for all things, to fear nothing but the loss of you, and to cast all our care on you who cares for us, preserve me from faithless fears and worldly anxieties, that no clouds of this mortal life may hide from me the light of that love which is immortal. And that caught me The idea of the faithless fears and worldly anxieties that we just take in because we live in this world. And we do just take it in because, do you have any idea how many advertising messages you see every day? Averages around 5,000. 5,000 advertising messages you see every single day. And all of them are telling you, you need something more. All of them are. And that kind of thinking begins to infect our lives, and we begin to think, you're right, I need more. I need more. But how we live is about our own choice. We can choose to live in that idea of scarcity, that I don't have enough. I need more. It's a mindset. And I think we need to look very closely at what that means for us when we live in that mindset. You know, I was looking at some statistics on giving, and it's pretty amazing. In 2011, the top 20% of income earners gave 1.3% of their income to charity. But the bottom 20% gave 3.2% of their income to charity. Almost 3 times as much. And you have to wonder, why would that be? That doesn't make sense to us. That the highest earners give much less than the lowest earners. In Texas, the income bracket that gave the most percentage-wise of their income, $25,000 a year. Think about that. $25,000 a year. The income bracket that gave the least, $250,000 and up. That's pretty sobering. But you know, I think that's indicative of our culture. It seems like the more that we have, the more we hold on. And no matter how much we have, we're aware of what we don't have. So we never feel like we have enough. We're on this merry-go-round of more, 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 and we can't seem to get off. And we live into that culture. And when we do, we start living a lifestyle of scarcity. Scarcity, of never having enough, of thinking there isn't enough. Yeah, I read something this week that was called The Myth of Scarcity, and I really like what it has to say. They wrote this: we wake up saying, I didn't get enough sleep. And the next thought we have is, I don't have enough time. Whether it's true or not, that thought of not enough occurs to us automatically before we even think to question or examine it. Not enough exercise, not enough work, not enough profits or enough power, not enough weekends or enough money, not thin enough, smart enough, pretty enough, fit, educated, successful, or rich enough. Before we even sit up in bed, before our feet touch the floor, we're already inadequate, already behind, already losing, already lacking something. And by the time we go to bed at night, our minds race with a litany of what we didn't get or didn't get done that day. Think about that. How many of us live that life? That sounds like a terrible way to live, doesn't it? It sounds terrible to me. But it sounds very much like us, like our culture. So I want to get off that merry-go-round of more, more, more. I need more. I need more. And how do we do it? Well, first we have to stop living this life of scarcity. And when I tell you what the opposite of scarcity is, your natural inclination is to think abundance. And you're wrong. The opposite of scarcity is not abundance. The opposite of scarcity is enough. Enough. I am enough, and I have enough. That's a whole different way of living, of thinking that I am enough, and I have enough. And I think we can all say that because even the poorest among us in this community, we are rich by the world's standards. if you step back and take an honest look at it and ignore the fact that 5,000 times a day you're told you need more, if you can disconnect from that and step back and look at it, you will realize you are enough and you have enough. So as we're doing this capital campaign, we've been talking about ways that you can give, how we want you to give. And I'm going to just tell you, do I want you to give? Yes, I do. Close your ears. To the capital campaign, that's up to you. That's up to you. You need to come to that decision between you and God. But I want you to give for your own sake, for your own heart, to help you step off that merry-go-round of more, more, more. Give. And even if it's not a lot, give. Even if it feels like you're only giving your 2 copper coins, it's not about how much. It's about a mindset of learning to live into enough. I have enough. I am enough. And also give, because then you are part of something greater, whether it's to the church or some other place. When you give together, you are part of something greater. You know, most of us look around and think, I could not give enough to make any difference in the world. Well, you're right. Individually, I can't, not individually. But when I join with other givers, we make all the difference. We make all the difference. We learned that in the first capital campaign we had. We blew away the metrics, and it was because we did it together. Way more people gave sacrificially than they ever expected would. And because of that, we had a great response, because we learned we can do more together than we can ever do by ourselves. Give for your heart, for yourself, so that you can change your mindset from one of scarcity to one of enough. I have enough, and I am enough.